The NBA regular season is almost here, and now it's that time of the year, folks. ESPN has officially sent out their rankings for next season in regards to where they believe NBA teams will be ranking and seeding as of next season. We're going to break down exactly where the New York Knicks rank, if they should be higher on the list, and what teams should fall lower on that list. We're going to look into this and so much more today on the Knicks Digest. It's that time of the year, folks. The ESPN rankings have officially been released, and we've been actually waiting to cover it because ESPN normally, once they release the list, will sometimes update it a few days afterwards. So we wanted to wait to make sure we got the real official list. And finally, we believe we have that. According to ESPN, these are the teams that they call the contenders in the Eastern Conference that rank 1 through 6 for next season. According to ESPN, the contenders in the Eastern Conference that will be ranking 1 through 6 in terms of seeding next year and their win totals are the following. The Boston Celtics, 55 wins with 27 losses. That would be extraordinary for them. The Bucks at 54 wins with 28 losses at number 2. The Cavs at number 3 at 50 wins and 32 losses. Philadelphia at 47 wins and 35 losses. And then we have the Miami Heat at number 5 at a record of 46 and 36. And then we have the New York Knicks rounding out the 6th spot in the East at the same record of 46 and 36. But you would assume here that the Knicks lost the tiebreaker to the Heat, which is why they're in the 6th spot. So those are your contenders for the Eastern Conference according to ESPN and their win-loss records. If you agree or disagree, go ahead and leave a comment below. I'm going to go ahead and comment on this after I went ahead and reviewed the entire list from top to bottom in regards to who is in the Eastern Conference and their win and loss total. Let's go over now to the teams that might be in the play-in according to the ESPN rankings. According to ESPN, the play-in group will be the Atlanta Hawks at 41 to 41, Brooklyn at 39 to 43, Indiana at 38 to 44, and the Magic 38 to 44. Not a bad way to round out the play-in. I'll say this before I comment on everything. The play-in list, I agree with more than I agree with the contenders list for the Eastern Conference, especially in regards to where I believe some of those teams are going to land, because some of those teams should not be as high as they are. Now, let's go to the bottom of the barrel. The real bottom. Some of the worst teams in the East according to ESPN. The bottom 5 in the East. Chicago, 37 to 45. If that's true, another utterly horrendous year for Chicago. You got the Raptors after them at 36 and 46. I think they should fall lower actually because you have no idea what's happening with Siakam and OG at this point. Then you have the Charlotte Hornets right after them at 30 to 52. After them, the Detroit Pistons at 26 to 56. Shout out to my guy Monty Williams, who I do believe will turn around that franchise. And then rounding out that bottom 5 is the Washington Wizards with a record of 24 and 58. Do you feel disrespected? Do some of the teams that you hear on that list, should they be higher? Should they be contenders? Do you feel a little disrespected? I want to hear about it. Leave a comment below. Let me know how you feel. And I might do a reaction video to those comments depending on how spicy they are. So put your best foot forward when you're making those comments. But these rankings by ESPN, do I agree with them? Do I think certain teams should be higher on the list? I'll say one thing. The New York Knicks should absolutely be higher on this ESPN rankings list. Let's take a look at it again. The Knicks are ranked 6th, and the Cleveland Cavaliers are ranked 3rd. Please, somebody make it make sense for me. How is Cleveland, a team that the New York Knicks beat, and beat outstandingly well in the playoffs, ahead of us by 3 spots? Do we think that their regular season is going to be that much better? Is the additions that they made to their bench and their roster so extraordinary that they jump up to the 3 spot in the East? Is that what ESPN thinks? Because if that's what they think, I don't agree. The Cavs did get better. You can make the argument that in the East, Boston and the Cavs were the main 2 teams that got better. Some of the other teams, while they did add talent, they either have gotten worse or stayed the same. I don't think they've gotten better. At least not yet. We can't call it. It may be too early. We might have to see them play. Especially the Wizards. I think the Wizards being 15 on this list is actually a little bit offensive to the Wizards. I think the Wizards are going to be a little bit higher. They might be a play-in team, in my opinion. I don't think they're going to be as bad as ESPN thinks. I do think they're going to be a play-in team. But my goodness, I do not agree that the Knicks are going to be 6th. If anything, I think that number 3 spot in the East is the most volatile at this point in time and the most open. You can make the argument that the Cavs have it, but I can make the argument so do the Knicks. The Knicks are coming on another year of rolling out more or less the same roster with the addition of Dante DiVincenzo. And since that's the case, you have that chemistry that you can build off of from last year. And that means you're not headed into the gate slow. It's a lot faster you to get to the curb. And that also means that you might have the legitimacy to get off to a hot start and use that in a way to propel you to a higher seeding in the East. And I think it's possible for the New York Knicks, especially when your leader is Jalen Brunson. He's going to always give you that chance to be in terms of the top teams in the East. I think ESPN even put the Knicks in this list as quote-unquote contenders in the East because Jalen Brunson's on the team. That's how impactful he is. But in my opinion, the Knicks should absolutely be higher on this list. They should either be 3 or 4 on this list. Absolutely, without question. They should not be 6, and they should not even be 5. And shout out to the Heat and everything that they do. But 5? I know they went to the finals, but they always coast in the regular season, and they turn it all the way up in the playoffs. And because of that coasting, I see them more as a 7 or 6 seed than I do a 5th seed. I see the Cavs as maybe a 5-6 seed, the Knicks as a 3-4 seed, and Philadelphia as a 4-5 seed. If anything, I think the Philadelphia 76ers might be ranked lower on this list, or at least should be, because everything that's happening in Philadelphia right now, all that turmoil. Will Joel Embiid leave? Will he stay? Will James Harden even show up for training camp with the liar Daryl Morey? I don't know. What I do know is one thing, though. The 76ers are in shambles, broken. They have a lot to overcome, and dealing with all of that, the toxicity that it creates in that locker room, all that negativity, it's going to weigh them down like an anchor. Shout out to Nick Nurse, because I think you're going to take the full blame if they don't show up to play next season. I'll tell you that. But as of right now, Philadelphia, at number 4, they'd be lucky to make number 6 in the way I'm thinking right now. That negativity, you're not taking into calculation that negativity and how much it can affect the team in a locker room. I think it plays a bigger part than ESPN does. So for me, the ESPN rankings, at least when we're talking about the play-in group, this seems about right. This also seems about right. Also, I would say that the Wizards would jump up a little bit more for me. The only thing that doesn't make sense is really this list. I don't feel that disrespected because we've made it to a list called the Contenders on an ESPN rankings list. That before would have never happened. We're tied with the team in the Miami Heat that went to the finals this past season, so that doesn't seem too bad. In terms of the win-loss totals, the Knicks are not too far away from the Cleveland Cavaliers. So if you wanted to be nitpicky and choose all of these things to pick at with this list, of course you could find issue and fault. But I would say, in terms of an ESPN rankings list that I've seen in the past year or two, it is pretty good and pretty accurate. although I would say some changes should be made and arguably need to be made immediately. But apart from those that I already mentioned to you, I think the list does do a lot of the teams justice. But let's be careful here, because even though I agree with the list more or less, I did say I have some issues with it. And another one of those issues is Boston being so high, especially with their win-loss record. That's going to really fall on KP, Kristaps Porzingis, and how much he is available for your team. Now, he did play a lot of games for the Wizards last year, to his credit. And if he can do the same things for the Celtics, I might believe that record. But he's injured now. If he's injured during the season or has an extended time where he's missing game time, the Celtics may not be at that record, number one. And number two, they may not even be at that seeding. They could fall to number two, and the Bucks could jump up to number one. That is absolutely possible. It's going to be something to watch as we head into next season. I don't know if you feel disrespected as a Knicks fan being number 6 on this list. For me, because ESPN is the one who created this list, I don't feel that slighted. And honestly, given the win-loss total, I actually do agree with it a little bit, because the Knicks really didn't make any major moves this offseason to really state and explain why they would win more games than 46. So I'm okay with the New York Knicks and their win-loss total and where they are. Although, like I stated, I would have the New York Knicks just a little bit higher in the rankings, either 3 or 4, just because in my opinion, that's the respect they deserve. But let me know what you think in the comments. I hope you liked this video. Don't forget to hit that like button as well and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, Knicks fans, this has been Troy with the Knicks Digest. We're out of here.